The Mockery Commander Marcus Chen stood before the Galactic Assembly on Station Omega-7, his military uniform crisp despite 3 days of continuous diplomatic sessions. The massive chamber stretched upward for nearly a kilometer, accommodating representatives from 43 different spacefaring civilizations. Floating platforms held delegates of various sizes and environmental requirements. Some breathed methane, others required tanks of liquid ammonia, and a few existed as pure energy beings contained within crystalline shells. Marcus represented humanity, the newest addition to the galactic community. They had achieved faster-than-light travel only 70 years ago, making them infants by galactic standards. Most species in the assembly had been traveling the stars for millennia. The Vornak Empire alone claimed a history spanning 20,000 years of interstellar dominance. High Admiral Krex of the Vornak Empire rose from his platform. Standing 4 meters tall with scales that shimmered like polished obsidian, he commanded attention through sheer physical presence. His species had evolved as apex predators on a world where survival meant absolute dominance. Their military philosophy reflected this heritage perfectly. The assembly would hear the Vornak proposal regarding the human colonies in the Sigma sector. Krex's voice boomed through the chamber, requiring no translation device. The Vornak had long ago mastered every major galactic language as a show of superiority. These 12 worlds currently occupied by human settlers represent vital strategic positions for the security of the Empire. We require these systems for forward military installations. Marcus had expected this moment for months. Intelligence reports suggested the Vornak had been planning this territorial grab since humanity's first colony ship entered the Sigma sector. The 12 worlds in question housed nearly 60 million human colonists who had spent decades building their new homes. A representative from the Etherian collective floated forward, their gaseous form shifting through various colors as they communicated. The Etherians acted as mediators in most galactic disputes, though their idea of mediation often favored whoever held the most military power. Perhaps the humans could be relocated to less strategically valuable systems. The Void Sector has several habitable worlds that remain unclaimed. The Void Sector was a graveyard of dead civilizations, destroyed by an ancient war that left the region saturated with radiation and gravitational anomalies. Any colony there would struggle to survive, let alone thrive. The suggestion was an insult disguised as compromise. Marcus activated his communication implant, sending a burst transmission to Earth using quantum entanglement. The message was simple but would trigger protocols that had been in place since humanity's first contact with alien life. The real game was about to begin. The Kalaran delegate, a silicon-based life form that resembled living crystal, chimed in with harmonic tones that translated to condescending sympathy. Young species often overextend themselves in their enthusiasm for exploration. The humans have shown admirable ambition, but perhaps they lack the experience to understand galactic territorial dynamics. The Vornak claim has historical precedent dating back 3,000 years. Historical precedent meant nothing to humanity, but Marcus kept his expression neutral. He had trained for this moment at the Academy on Mars, where human military doctrine had evolved far beyond what these ancient civilizations could imagine. They thought in terms of massive fleets and overwhelming firepower. Humans had learned different lessons from their violent history. High Admiral Krex turned his attention directly to Marcus, his 6 eyes focused with predatory intensity. Commander Chen, your species has 48 standard hours to begin evacuation procedures. The Vornak Empire will provide transport vessels to assist in relocating your colonists. This is a generous offer that will not be repeated. The chamber fell silent, waiting for the human response. Many delegates already looked bored, assuming this was a foregone conclusion. After all, humanity possessed only 300 military vessels compared to the Vornak's 10,000 ship armada. By conventional galactic wisdom, there was no contest. Marcus stood slowly, his movement deliberately measured. Every gesture had been rehearsed, every word chosen for maximum impact. The United Earth government appreciates the Vornak Empire's concern for galactic security. However, we must decline your generous offer. The 12 worlds of the Sigma sector will remain under human administration. Laughter rippled through the assembly. The sound was alien and discordant, coming from dozens of different species with varying concepts of humor. The Zephoid representative, an insectoid being with compound eyes, clicked their mandibles in amusement. The humans show spirit, if not wisdom. Perhaps they do not understand the mathematics of their situation, Marcus remained standing, weathering the mockery with professional calm. Inside, he was counting down, 47 hours and 52 minutes until the response from Earth would arrive. Not ships, not diplomats, but something these ancient civilizations had never encountered. The Quellian ambassador, whose species resembled massive jellyfish floating in specially designed water tanks, pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. In our experience, young species benefit from guidance. The Vornak Empire has maintained order in this region for millennia. Human resistance would be brief and futile. Your entire fleet could be destroyed in a single solar rotation. High Admiral Krex raised one of his forearms, silencing the chamber. Commander Chen, I respect your species' courage. It reminds me of the Deltari, who also refused Vornak authority. Perhaps you are unfamiliar with their fate? Marcus knew the story well. The Deltari civilization had resisted Vornak expansion 800 years ago. Their homeworld was now a mining operation, their species extinct except for a few specimens in Vornak research facilities. The threat was not subtle. We are familiar with history, Admiral, Marcus replied evenly. We simply choose to write our own chapter. More laughter from the assembly. The Andromedan representative, a mechanical consciousness inhabiting a robotic shell, calculated probabilities aloud. Statistical analysis indicates human resistance would last approximately 14 standard hours against a concentrated Vornak assault. This projection assumes optimal human performance and significant Vornak restraint. The mockery continued for another hour. Each species took turns explaining why humanity should accept its place in the galactic hierarchy. They cited military statistics, historical precedents, and the natural order of galactic civilization. Older species guided younger ones. The strong protected the weak for a price. This was how the galaxy had functioned for millions of years. Marcus endured it all, occasionally checking his chronometer. 46 hours. 45. The countdown continued while the assembly dismissed humanity as a minor inconvenience to be resolved quickly. The Saurian delegate, a reptilian species known for their extensive military academies, offered what they considered helpful advice. Human military doctrine appears based on your species' planetary conflicts. Small unit tactics and guerrilla warfare have no place in space combat. You cannot hide in space. You cannot ambush in the void. Space warfare is about numbers, firepower, and technology. In all three categories, you are drastically inferior. Marcus almost smiled at that statement. The Saurians, like every other species in the assembly, had made a critical error in their assessment. They assumed human military doctrine hadn't evolved since first contact. They assumed humanity had shown them everything. They assumed that what they could see was all that existed. As the session concluded, High Admiral Krex made one final statement. 48 hours, Commander Chen. After that, the Vornak Empire will take what it requires with or without human cooperation. I suggest you use this time to convince your government to see reason. Marcus bowed slightly, a gesture that could be interpreted as either respect or mockery, depending on the observer's perspective. The United Earth government will provide its final response within your timeline, Admiral. I can promise you that. As delegates began departing, several approached Marcus with offers of assistance. Not military aid, of course, but help with evacuation and resettlement. The Etherian Collective offered to negotiate favorable terms for human surrender. The Quellians suggested they could preserve human cultural artifacts before the inevitable conflict. Even the hostile Kalarans proposed taking some human refugees to study as a primitive but interesting species. Marcus thanked each one politely, making no commitments. He returned to his quarters on the station and sent another quantum message to Earth. This one contained detailed intelligence about each species' military capabilities, their positions on humanity, and their expected responses to various scenarios. The next 30 hours passed slowly. Marcus attended regular assembly sessions, maintaining humanity's presence despite the foregone conclusion everyone expected. Delegates had already begun discussing how Vornak control of the Sigma sector would affect trade routes and military deployments. Humanity had been written off before the conflict even began. With 18 hours remaining, Marcus received a response from Earth. It contained just 4 words that made him smile for the first time since arriving at Station Omega 7. The package is delivered. He returned to his quarters and activated a secured communication channel that connected him directly to Earth's Strategic Command. General Sarah Mitchell appeared on the screen, her expression calm but her eyes blazing with determination. "Status report, Commander." The general's voice was steady. "All delegates present and accounted for, General. They've shown their hand completely. No species has offered military support. They all expect us to fold." General Mitchell nodded slowly. "Then they're in for an education. Operation Silent Storm is authorized. May God help us all." The channel closed and Marcus sat in the darkness of his quarters. In 17 hours, the galaxy would learn why humanity had been so quiet, so cooperative, so seemingly weak for the past 70 years. They would learn that humans had not been idle. They would learn that human military doctrine had evolved far beyond conventional understanding. But most importantly, they would learn why humans had never shown their true military capabilities. Because in space, as on Earth, the most dangerous predator was the one you never saw coming. The revelation: 16 hours remained when the first anomaly appeared on Vornak military sensors. A tiny fluctuation in background radiation near their primary fleet staging area. The anomaly lasted less than a second before disappearing. Vornak technicians dismissed it as a sensor glitch, one of thousands that occurred daily in the complex systems that monitored space around their empire. Marcus Chen stood in the assembly chamber as High Admiral Krex provided an update on Vornak fleet movements. 3,000 warships had been positioned around the Sigma sector, ready to begin occupation the moment the deadline expired. The display showed impressive formations, each ship a testament to Vornak military engineering. Their smallest destroyer was larger than humanity's biggest battleship. The Etherian collective representative expressed concern about potential casualties. "Surely the humans will see reason when faced with such overwhelming force. There is no honor in pointless death." Krex's scales shifted to a deeper black, a sign of irritation among his species. "The humans have been warned. If they choose destruction over wisdom, that is their decision. The galaxy cannot wait for every young species to accept reality at their own pace." 8 hours remained when the second anomaly occurred. This time it appeared simultaneously in 12 locations across Vornak space. Each lasted exactly 3 seconds before vanishing. Again, technicians noted the irregularities but found no cause for alarm. Space was full of strange phenomena. These readings didn't match any known weapon signatures or ship profiles. Marcus received another message from Earth. "Phase 2 complete. Await final authorization." He deleted the message immediately and returned his attention to the assembly debate. The Andromedan delegate was calculating post-conflict reconstruction costs for the Sigma sector. Their mechanical mind had already accepted human defeat as a mathematical certainty. With 4 hours remaining, Marcus requested permission to address the assembly one final time. High Admiral Krex granted it with what might have been amusement. Perhaps the human had finally come to his senses. "Distinguished delegates," Marcus began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Before this deadline expires, I wish to share something about human military philosophy that your species may find educational." The assembly settled into polite attention, expecting either a surrender or a desperate plea for mercy. Neither came. Every species here evolved differently, shaped by your unique worlds and challenges. The Vornak evolved as apex predators, mastering direct confrontation. The Etherians developed beyond physical conflict, becoming mediators and philosophers. The Andromedans achieved mechanical perfection, calculating optimal solutions to every problem. He paused, ensuring he had everyone's attention. Humans evolved on a world where we were not the strongest, fastest, or largest predators. We survived through adaptation, cooperation, and most importantly, deception. We learned to make our enemies see what we wanted them to see. We learned that the most effective weapon is the one your enemy doesn't know exists until it's too late. Krex's scales rippled with what might have been laughter. "Are you suggesting humanity has secret weapons that could challenge the combined might of the Vornak Empire? Commander Chen, fantasy and reality are different things." Marcus smiled then, an expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Admiral, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating a fact. For 70 years, humanity has shown you exactly what we wanted you to see. 300 visible warships, conventional weapons, standard defensive positions. You've observed our colonies, counted our resources, analyzed our capabilities, and you've seen exactly what we designed you to see." The assembly grew quieter. Something in the human's tone had changed, shifting from diplomatic to coldly confident. 2 hours, Admiral, Marcus continued. In 2 hours, you'll understand why human military doctrine includes a principle we call strategic ambiguity. You see, we learned from our history that showing your true strength invites challenge, but hiding it completely invites aggression. So we show just enough weakness to seem manageable, but not enough to seem helpless. The Kalaran delegate's crystalline form vibrated with indignation. You're bluffing. We've had your space under surveillance for decades. Our combined intelligence networks would have detected any significant military development. Marcus checked his chronometer. 1 hour, 58 minutes, would they? Let me ask you something. How many human civilian vessels have you tracked entering and leaving our space over the past 70 years? The Andromedan delegate responded instantly. Approximately 4,200,000 civilian transports, cargo vessels, and colony ships. Marcus nodded. Correct. And how many of those did you board and inspect? The android paused, accessing records. Direct inspection occurred in 0.03% of cases. Civilian traffic poses no military threat, no military threat. Marcus repeated the words slowly. Tell me, what's the difference between a civilian cargo hauler and a military troop ship? Between a mining vessel and a weapons platform? Between a colony ship and a carrier? High Admiral Krex stood suddenly, his massive frame tensing. You're implying that your civilian fleet is no such thing. Marcus finished. Every human vessel that has traveled through space for the past 70 years has been built with dual purposes. Every cargo hauler can deploy weapon systems in 12 seconds. Every mining vessel carries military-grade reactors that can power energy weapons. Every colony ship has a fighter complement hidden in what you thought were agricultural bays. The assembly erupted in discussion, but Marcus continued speaking over the noise. But that's not the real secret. The real secret is what you never saw at all. You see, humans mastered something your species never bothered to develop because you never needed it. We perfected stealth technology, true invisibility in space, not just sensor dampening or cloaking that can be detected with effort. Complete electromagnetic invisibility. 1 hour remained. For every ship you've seen, there are 10 you haven't. They've been positioned throughout the galaxy for decades, waiting. We call them the Ghost Fleet. Silent, invisible, and patient. They're not at our colonies or protecting our trade routes. They're in your space. They've been in your space for years. The Vornak delegation was frantically communicating with their fleet command. Other species were doing the same, checking their own sensor logs for anomalies they might have missed. 45 minutes remained when every display in the assembly chamber activated simultaneously. The screens showed Vornak space from angles that should have been impossible, from positions where no ships should exist. The footage was being broadcast from hundreds of invisible human vessels positioned around critical Vornak infrastructure. Shipyards, command stations, communication relays, population centers. Every strategic location in the Vornak Empire had human ships positioned nearby, weapons armed and ready. The same was true for 17 other major civilizations in the assembly. Marcus's voice carried over the shocked silence. The footage you're seeing is real-time. Our Ghost Fleet has been in position for years, studying your defenses, learning your weaknesses, mapping every critical system. We know where your reactors are vulnerable. We know which communication nodes to destroy to cripple your command structure. We know exactly how to dismantle your empires piece by piece. High Admiral Krex's scales had turned pale, a sign of extreme distress in his species. This is impossible. Our sensors, our security, we would have detected. You detected what we wanted you to detect, Marcus interrupted. Those anomalies your technicians have been dismissing, those were our ships checking in. We've been showing ourselves to your sensors for hours, and your people ignored it because it didn't match any profile in your databases. 30 minutes remained. The human commander walked to the center of the chamber, addressing all delegates equally. Humanity offers you a choice. The same choice you gave us, but with one difference. We're not asking for your colonies. We're not demanding your resources. We simply want to be left alone. Remove your fleets from the Sigma sector. Acknowledge human sovereignty over our colonies and the Ghost Fleet remains invisible. Force our hand, and every ship you're seeing on these displays will reveal itself simultaneously. The Etherian collective representative pulsed urgently. This is an act of war. Positioning military vessels in our space without permission violates every treaty. Every treaty you never invited us to sign, Marcus corrected. You treated us as subjects to be managed, not equals to negotiate with. We simply adapted to the situation you created. 15 minutes remained. General Mitchell's face appeared on the main display. Broadcast from Earth. Distinguished members of the Galactic Assembly, I am General Sarah Mitchell, Supreme Commander of United Earth Forces. What Commander Chen has told you is true. The Ghost Fleet is real, positioned, and ready. But there's something else you should know. The displays changed, showing detailed scans of Vornak warships. Their weapons, their shields, their reactor cores, all mapped in exhaustive detail. We've spent 70 years studying your technology, your tactics, your psychology. We know that Vornak shields operate on a frequency that can be disrupted by a specific electromagnetic pulse. We know that Kalaran crystal structures shatter when exposed to harmonic resonance at precisely 14.7 kHz. We know that Etherian energy beings can be contained using modified magnetic fields. We know every weakness of every species in this room. 5 minutes remained, but more importantly, the general continued, we know that none of you have studied us. You saw a young species with inferior numbers and dismissed us. You never asked why humans, despite our apparent weakness, had never lost a ship to piracy. Why our colonies, despite being undefended, had never been successfully raided. Why species that tried to test our boundaries quietly backed away without explanation. The chronometer showed 2 minutes. Marcus spoke again. In 2 minutes, the deadline expires. When it does, humanity will demonstrate one Ghost Fleet vessel. Just one. It will appear in the center of the Vornak fleet formation and broadcast its specifications to everyone. You'll see our weapons, our defenses, our capabilities. Then you'll have to imagine hundreds of such vessels positioned throughout your space. And ask yourselves a simple question. Is forcing humanity from 12 colony worlds worth the risk? 1 minute. The assembly chamber was silent except for the hum of life support systems and the rapid communications between delegates and their governments. High Admiral Kreck stood motionless, his 6 eyes fixed on Marcus with an expression that might have been respect or fear. 30 seconds. Marcus activated his personal communicator. All Ghost Fleet vessels, this is Commander Chen. Prepare for selective reveal. Delta 7, you have the honor. 10 seconds. The countdown appeared on every display in the chamber. Every delegate watched as the numbers decreased. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In the space above the Vornak fleet, reality seemed to ripple. Where there had been empty void, a ship materialized. It was smaller than a Vornak destroyer, but bristling with weapons that defied conventional design. Energy readings spiked beyond what should have been possible for a vessel of its size. Its armor showed a configuration that sensor readings couldn't properly analyze. It was human engineering freed from the constraints of visible deterrence. The Ghost Fleet vessel broadcast a simple message on all frequencies. This is HMS Phantom, one of 412 vessels of the United Earth Ghost Fleet currently deployed throughout galactic space. We are requesting acknowledgement of human sovereignty over the Sigma Sector colonies. You have 1 hour to respond. The assembly erupted into chaos. Delegates screamed at each other in dozens of languages. Some accused humanity of terrorism. Others demanded immediate military action. Still others called for negotiation. Through it all, Marcus stood quietly in the center, waiting. High Admiral Krex approached him slowly. His massive frame towered over the human, but for the first time, there was uncertainty in his posture. You've made the galaxy your hostage. Krex's voice was low, meant only for Marcus. No, Admiral. We've made the galaxy think twice. There's a difference. Your empire is built on fear of your visible strength. Ours is built on uncertainty about our invisible capabilities. Which do you think is more effective? The Vornak commander was quiet for a long moment. Then, to the surprise of everyone in the chamber, he laughed. It was a harsh sound, like grinding stone, but genuine. For 20,000 years, the Vornak have dominated through strength. We forgot that before we were strong. We survived through cunning. You've reminded us of something we had lost. Perhaps there is wisdom in your approach. Krex turned to address the assembly. The Vornak Empire withdraws its claim to the Sigma Sector. Human sovereignty over these worlds is acknowledged. The statement sent another wave of shock through the chamber, but other species began following suit. The Etherian collective acknowledged human sovereignty. The Andromedans calculated that conflict with an invisible enemy positioned throughout their space had unacceptable risk parameters. One by one, every species in the assembly agreed to recognize human territorial claims. As the session concluded, the Saurian delegate approached Marcus. Your deception was masterful, but I must know, how many Ghost Fleet vessels do you really have? Marcus smiled. Enough. But the energy requirements alone for maintaining such a fleet in stealth mode would be astronomical. How did you manage it? That's the beautiful thing about strategic ambiguity, Ambassador. You'll never know if we have 400 ships or 4,000. You'll never know if they're all military vessels or if some are decoys. You'll never know if our stealth technology is permanent or if we need to surface periodically. And that uncertainty will keep the peace better than any treaty. As delegates departed, General Mitchell appeared on Marcus's private communicator. Outstanding work, Commander. The Galaxy bought it completely. Thank you, General. Though I have to ask, how many Ghost Fleet vessels do we actually have? Mitchell smiled. That's classified, Commander. Even from you. Strategic ambiguity works best when even our own people aren't entirely certain of our capabilities. The call ended, leaving Marcus alone in the now empty assembly chamber. He looked at the displays still showing the HMS Phantom holding position above the Vornak fleet. Its presence had changed everything. Not through violence, but through the possibility of violence. Not through strength, but through the perception of strength. Over the following weeks, the Galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Human colonies in the Sigma sector continued their development unmolested. Trade agreements were renegotiated with surprisingly favorable terms for Earth. Species that had dismissed humanity suddenly sought alliance and cooperation. But the most significant change was the silence. The constant chatter of military posturing that had defined galactic politics for millennia diminished. Every species now wondered who else might be hiding invisible fleets. Who else had capabilities they hadn't revealed? The certainty that had governed the Galaxy was gone, replaced by a careful, watchful peace. Some called it paranoia. Humans called it balance. 6 months after the revelation, Marcus stood on the observation deck of Sigma Station, the first joint human-alien military installation. High Admiral Krex stood beside him, watching human and Vornak crews work together. Your species has taught us something valuable, Commander, Krex said. For too long we believed that power meant being feared. You've shown us that true power is making others fear what they don't know about you. Marcus nodded. On Earth we have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. But we learned something better. Don't show the stick at all. Let them wonder if you have one, how big it is, and where you're hiding it. 6 months after the revelation, Marcus stood on the observation deck of Sigma Station, the first joint human-alien military installation. High Admiral Krex stood beside him, watching human and Vornak crews work together. Your species has taught us something valuable, Commander, Krex said. For too long we believed that power meant being feared. You've shown us that true power is making others fear what they don't know about you. Marcus nodded. On Earth we have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. But we learned something better. Don't show the stick at all. Let them wonder if you have one, how big it is, and where you're hiding it. The Galaxy has gone quiet since your revelation. No major conflicts, no territorial expansions. Everyone is too uncertain to act aggressively. Peace through paranoia. Marcus agreed. Not ideal, but effective. Krex made the grinding sound that served as laughter for his species. Tell me truthfully, Commander, that demonstration, the Ghost Fleet, the years of infiltration, how much of it was real? Marcus turned to look at the massive alien warrior. Admiral, if I told you that, it would defeat the entire purpose. The moment you know for certain what humanity can or can't do, you can plan around it. But as long as you're not sure, you have to assume we can do everything we claimed. And if we called your bluff, then you'd find out if it was a bluff. But ask yourself, is that knowledge worth the risk? Krex considered this for a long moment. No, it is not. As they watched the stars, neither spoke of the reports that continued to filter in from across the galaxy. Anomalous sensor readings that might be Ghost Fleet vessels or might be natural phenomena. Mysterious equipment failures that could be human sabotage or simple mechanical breakdown. Whispered rumors of human agents infiltrating every major government, which might be true or might be paranoid fantasy. The galaxy had fallen silent because humanity had introduced something more powerful than any weapon. Doubt. Every species now questioned what they thought they knew. Every military commander wondered if empty space was truly empty. Every politician wondered if their allies were really allies. Earth's population never learned the full truth. Some believed the Ghost Fleet was entirely real, a massive secret project that had consumed resources for decades. Others suspected it was mostly an elaborate bluff, a handful of prototype ships and a lot of theater. The government never confirmed either theory, but in secret military archives on Earth, in a file marked with the highest classification level, lay the truth. A single document that would have either reassured or terrified the galaxy, depending on its contents. The file was titled Operation Silent Storm Final Assessment. No one below the rank of Fleet Admiral had access to it. Even Marcus Chen, who had delivered the performance that changed galactic history, didn't know for certain what was real and what was illusion, because that was the ultimate genius of human military doctrine. When your own commanders don't know the full extent of your capabilities, when your own soldiers believe in weapons that may or may not exist, when your own population is uncertain of their government's true power, then your enemies have no hope of determining the truth. The galaxy had fallen silent, not because humanity had unleashed a secret weapon, but because they had unleashed something far more powerful, the possibility of a secret weapon. And in the vast darkness of space, where certainty meant life and death, possibility was the most terrifying weapon of all. Years passed. The silence continued. Peace prevailed not through strength or treaty, but through the simple fact that no one wanted to be the first to test whether humanity's claims were true. The Ghost Fleet became legend, discussed in whispers but never directly challenged. And somewhere in the void, invisible to sensors and hidden from sight, something moved through the darkness. Whether it was hundreds of human warships maintaining their silent vigil, or just empty space and the power of suggestion, no one could say. That uncertainty changed the galaxy forever. The stars went silent, and in that silence, humanity found its place not through conquest, but through the masterful art of making the entire galaxy question everything they thought they knew. The secret weapon had been unleashed. It wasn't a ship, a gun, or a bomb. It was doubt itself, weaponized and deployed with surgical precision. And unlike any physical weapon, it grew stronger with time, fed by rumor and sustained by fear of the unknown. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, not for what they had done, but for what they might be able to do. And that fear, carefully cultivated and expertly maintained, proved more effective than any fleet of warships could ever be. As Marcus Chen would write in his classified memoirs years later, "We won the war without firing a shot, conquered without invading, and dominated without oppressing. We made the galaxy defeat itself with its own imagination, and in the end that was humanity's greatest trick. We made them believe we had a secret weapon, and their belief made it real.